Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Prep Life Podcast. This is your founder and CEO of Glam Girl Bikini, Amy Enger. And today I am joined by Lee Marie Jones, my fabulous co-host. How you doing, Lee?
Hey, I'm good. I'm really excited about this episode. I think it's some hot topics that we can talk about today.
You're watching on YouTube. She has the wrong shirt on. She's supposed to be wearing the Royals. She's wearing the Twins.
Okay. I am a Chiefs fan all the way, but I will always be a Minnesota Twins fan. I just can't. I can't get
Because
into any other team.
the
They're
Vikings
so
are
cool.
garbage. No, I'm just kidding.
That's true. That's very true. I do have a Vikings jersey, but I have about six Chiefs jerseys, so
There you go.
you got to stand with the home state sometimes. But
All
anyway,
right.
because
Yeah, we don't have any like where grew up in Indiana, there we had to
you
either
guys
drive
not
to
have any teams.
Chicago. I mean, we had the Colts in Indianapolis, but we had to drive to that and or
Okay.
drive 3 hours to Chicago. So I grew up as a White Sox fan, which was weird. But anyways, I digress.
Okay.
Um,
Speaking of sports, we're here to
yes,
talk about some new news in the sport of
in professional
bodybuilding.
sports, our sport for the prep life, so the
Mhm.
Olympia. We just saw that they put out the qualifications for the 2026 season, and boy, is it a doozy to talk about, in my opinion, because officially, first of all, Fit Model is in the Olympia for 2026,
Mhm.
and the difference between getting qualified as a fit model versus getting qualified as a bikini model or a bikini athlete, it's insane. I don't know if people will jump just for that reason of it being so different,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
wildly different. So why don't you take what the qualifications are? And this also includes classic physique, men's physique, wellness, and bikini. There's a long list. So I'll have you start with the two first roles that where they qualify.
Right. So the top 25 in the point standings qualify for the Olympia. So we're back to counting points and strategy and all of that. And then automatic qualification for the Olympia if you win two contests. So that I think is different from the last time that they
Huge.
did the points. So you
Hmm.
can just take first at two pro shows and that will qualify you. But if you're not able to win, you can still get there on points.
So if you win the Olympia this year in 2025, if you get first, second, or third, you get an automatic qualification to 2026. If you're fourth place or fifth place at the Olympia this year, you get 12 points at fourth place, 10 at fifth place. And then you want to take Arnold Classic, Pittsburgh
Mhm.
Pro, New York Pro, Romania Muscle Fest, and Dubai Pro.
Right. So there are those five shows. If you win first at any of those shows, you get an automatic qualification. If you win second through fifth, you'll get points. So second is 14 points, third is 11 points, fourth is 9 points, and fifth is 7 points. Way to keep things confusing,
I
guys.
know.
So much to keep
See
track
if you
of.
can write this all down. Any other IFBB Pro event will be first place 10 points, or if you get two of those, then you go to the Olympia. And second place is only 4 points. That's a big difference. And
Mhm.
then third place, three, fourth place, two, fifth place, one. So I just remember the athletes being so tired after this
Mhm.
race for the points. That was like, certain people, and then they kind of like modified it, and then they had some people going for points, and then some people if they won. And it was just like, I was glad this year when they had gotten rid of all the points and they just were like back to win a pro show. But I think because they have 70 bikini athletes doing the Olympia, I don't know if that is that the most. I don't even know. I,
That's
I
a lot.
I feel like they're reacting to that because in the past I know it's been at least 50, but 70 something is huge. And I know it's similar in like men's physique and stuff like that. Not so much wellness or classic, I wouldn't say, but those are all going to be affected. And then for men's bodybuilding, men's 212, women's bodybuilding, fitness, figure, women's physique, and fit model, the top three from the 2025 Olympia, which won't include fit model because they are not competing there. So it's really only applies to those other categories that I just said. Top three in women's bodybuilding from the Rising Phoenix, and then the winner of each open contest held during the qualification period. So, if you're reading through the tea leaves, if you are a fit model and you win a fit model pro show next year, you are automatically qualified for the Olympia. How many bikini people do you think will do a fit model show? Because as an IFBB pro, you can do anything. You could do a bodybuilding show if you're
Right.
a fit model pro, which is
Yeah.
wildly shouldn't happen, but you would get dead last. But you can, as long as you're an IFBB pro, you can enter in any category. And I've seen like my
No,
friend Brooke, she's gone from bikini, getting her pro card, and then she went to women's physique and got top three at the Olympia. So it's
wasn't
possible.
there something about fit models specifically though that had to do with qualifying? Like, was it for the Olympia or I thought there was something with fit models specifically that you couldn't, maybe it was just in a certain show you couldn't crossover categories or
So
something.
as an amateur, they're making
Okay.
it, yeah, that you can't cross over. So anytime you're doing a national show or an NPC show, just to eliminate what was happening with wellness and bikini,
Right.
where it's like people are like hybrids.
Mhm.
They just didn't want people in the same show crossing over. But yeah, in the IFBB, you can pick whatever you want to be. So, if people aren't doing as well in bikini, they don't have enough muscle, then they're probably going to try to do a fit model show. It'll be interesting what's going to happen with these Olympia qualifiers and the pro shows and fit model. I'm very curious.
I guess I understand them, like, especially the Olympia judges wanting to kind of narrow the field a little bit so it's not such a huge, long, crazy show that they
Yeah.
have to judge for hours and hours. I get that, but like, I feel like there is simpler ways. Like, why don't you make it that you have to win two pro shows and just across the board? Like,
So here's another thing. So they used to call Ashley like the Olympia blocker,
mhm,
because it was when you had to win pro shows and she'd like enter a show and she'd be a guarantee win.
yep,
So she'd
yep,
block them. But something that I don't know if everyone knows this, but the promoters have to pay for the hotel, the flights, the travel, all of the accommodations for each of these athletes. So when they have 70 athletes competing at the Olympia promoters have to
yeah,
cover those
mhm,
costs. And
mhm,
it's hard to make a purse very big when you're
yeah,
accommodating for 70 athletes. So the Arnold, they only take 10 bikini competitors because they fly those people over. They
yep,
pay for the hotel accommodations. They treat them like royalty. And that's why it's an application process for them. So, and this is kind of like on a side tangent note, but I was just listening to the recent interview with the 2023 Miss Olympia Bikini Masters
mm,
winner, Jessica Wilson,
mhm.
and Corinne Heinrich, the current 2025 Olympia Masters Bikini. And I didn't realize that it's every other year for the Masters Olympia.
Interesting.
Um, and so another tangent too, my friend Karina, she got her qualification to the Masters Olympia. I know I said that I needed to check on her.
Yeah.
She won her fitness show. She got it. And then Janine, just to follow up, she's the four-time title holder for Worlds in the 60 plus bikini. But anyways, I'm kind of going on another tangent there. Um, with that being said, okay, so for the Masters Olympia, um, this whole this whole thing is so it was a application in 2023, and then you had to win a pro show in 40 to qualify for the Tokyo one this year. So it just seems like it's just a moving part. Like I'm just telling you, like that's just like one example of like how they just keep switching it up.
Mhm.
But I think they kind of were onto something with the Masters Olympia the first year they had it, the inaugural year, where they had an application process. So the athlete had to like make a video, they had to have to like show their resume, and just like the Arnold, you have to kind of show the resume, but it was like they would need multiple like pro wins and stuff like that, so I don't know. What are your thoughts? Like, do you think it should be an application or hybrid or?
I can see how they're trying to control it, like you say, because they
Mhm.
have to pay the expenses for everyone. But then at the same point, they just introduced a brand new category.
Yeah.
That's going to be another 70 people. Like literally,
Well, see, I don't know if they're gonna have 70 Fit
okay,
Model Pro
true,
shows.
true. But like, if
I'm
you're going to
curious
try
as to
and,
how many they will have actually.
right. Well, not the first year, I'm
And
sure.
it'll probably take away from bikini purses. So I bet they'll have less
Right.
bikini pro
Yeah.
shows because now they're going to be adding fit model shows and promoters aren't going to do both probably.
Right. Um,
So I think that
I
will
had a
limit
train of
it.
thought and I lost it. I had a
I
train.
know. I keep going down different rabbit holes because I'm like having
Uh,
all these like rapid thoughts, but I do think it will take the number of bikini pro shows down, adding the fit model pro shows. That's my thought.
hmm,
So this race to the points might be like a lot less shows for the bikini competitors to race
yeah.
during. So maybe they won't get as fatigued as they did. I just remember poor Lana Dunbar chasing
Yes,
those
that's
points.
exactly who I was thinking of.
And as
She
a natural
worked
athlete,
herself to
it's
the
hard
bone.
to recover when
And
you're
then
not
you have to
on
go
stuff like that.
into the Olympia because you finally get your points and then
And
you're
then
just
your
shot.
body's tired.
You're shot.
And
This
that's what the
sport,
judges said too.
this sport,
Yeah.
and this
Or
is going to segue so good into our topic today, but this
yeah.
sport is so hard to, it's hard to control because of the way it's set up to qualify for the Olympia, it's hard to have a, like, if you look at any other sport, you have a set off season. Everyone gets a break. They have an off
Hmm.
season. Then you have training camp, and then you go, like, we're just about to
Yeah, you're right.
NFL games. You go in and there's scheduled games.
Yeah.
And
For
it
baseball
uh,
too.
baseball too.
They're done in October. They get November, December, January off. They start spring training in, February. They have a hard season, but they have like a specific season.
But in a sport like this, that's so individual, and you have
Hmm.
your feedback that you get that we're going to talk about. That's today's topic. And then your feedback might make you have a longer off season than someone next to you who can maybe afford to go right back into like a reverse diet and then right back into a prep. And then she has more chances to qualify and earn points than you. So it's really strategic and hard to manage.
And when you say afford, not even just like the longevity of their body, but like also financially,
Yeah.
because each show that you do is a financial commitment. I mean, I don't care how many sponsors you have, like for different things. Like most competitors, even the top competitors, when they're doing a pro show, they're using their prize money for covering the majority of the items that because there's still hair and makeup if you don't do your own. There's still tan if you aren't sponsored or you have to do your own. And, the hotel and the flights, like those aren't covered outside of the Arnold and the Olympia. So,
Right. And in other sports, you get signed onto a team and you get a salary. We don't
hmm.
we don't do that in bodybuilding. We're
Well,
we
and then you have somebody coordinating your private jet, your food, your
exactly
everything's like paid for by the team
exactly.
and the clubhouse. So,
So this is a very different sport, just as legit as any other sport. We work just as hard, but
yes,
since we are such a unique sport, then the way that we are judged is also unique.
yes,
So we
for
wanted to kind
sure.
of continue our last episode along those lines. And did you
Yeah.
kind of intro the topic?
Yeah. Yeah, we kind of so if you listen to the last episode, kind of plugging that one, go back and listen to it. We kind of just talked about harsh feedback and how to take care of that. And so today we're going to give you like more like tangible tools on what to do with that judge's feedback. But I think one of the hardest parts about competing, no matter what the category is in bodybuilding, hearing that judge's feedback can sometimes be a tough pill to swallow because unlike a race, a weight that you tangibly lifted, a result that's subjective. So I know I'm the fastest person because, I won the race because I was the fastest person.
Yeah.
It's very cut and dry. So feedback can feel harsh, sharp, and things like that because um, even though the truth of the matter is the judges aren't critiquing you as a person, but they're just critiquing the package you brought that day. But because the package is actually your body, your look, your presentation, it's really easy to internalize that because it's you. It's
Mhm.
you.
Mhm.
And if you have had like any sort of training on like giving critiques on like artwork and things, because I think of the body as like kind of like a piece of art, right? You basically are sculpting your body. And when you give a critique, artwork is very personal. Um, our bodies are obviously very personal. It's
Yeah.
us as a person. So I think it's important to keep in mind that like first of all, like yes, the judges are human, but it's also like they're critiquing your artwork, your person. So you need to kind of detach that. So what I like to quote Jay Shetty in Think Like a Monk when he talks about this detachment. So not in the sense of not caring. So you don't want to just detach yourself from like feelings with this, but you need to create a space between who you are and what happens to you. And so I quote him when he says, when you identify yourself with the results, you will always be disappointed. When you identify yourself with your effort, you will always be fulfilled. And I just think carrying that mind shift forward to every show and not allowing them to, like, don't have your identity by those results. Like, that one snapshot shouldn't dictate how you feel. It's like, how have you done along the journey? How have you done along the process? Like, how are you improving show to show? How are you showing up on a daily basis? And therefore, that's all I got to say. I just
I
said a
love
mouthful.
I love the idea of effort because when you think about the sport of bodybuilding, it is not and will never be a fair playing field. It can't because
Yeah.
some people genetically have a better form for the
Hmm.
category that you're in than you do.
Yeah.
And literally, there are some people like I've talked to bikini competitors who can't train their shoulders and they're just gorgeous and they just never do upper body. And it's like, wow, that was my biggest feedback. I need to build shoulders. So it's like, wow, you don't even have to work out in the gym and you just have these great shoulders. And I like there are things on the stage that will never be fair. So you can't play that game at all, but you can always know you always want to stand on stage knowing that you did every workout at 100% effort, that you did every minute of cardio, you didn't cut any cardio minutes, that you followed your meal plan to a T, that you got every step in that you needed to get in. Like your effort is what you want to judge because you don't want to stand up there and lose a show or not get a placing that you could have gotten or that you wanted to get because of something that you didn't do in prep. But if you stand up there doing your 110% effort your entire prep and someone beats you because they have better genetics than you, that's just our sport. But that's when you can stand up and be proud of what you did because you're identifying yourself with your effort, if that makes sense.
Hmm. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So something, and I wish I would have done it for myself, because I did it with Sandy because I knew Paul wasn't there at Masters Nationals. I took an audio memo on my
Mhm.
phone. I recorded what she said so I could just like play it back because when you're in the heat of the moment, your adrenaline's pumping, like you're either sad, disappointed, excited, upset, whatever it is, like happy that it's it's like that fight or flight where your adrenaline is up and so your rational brain isn't really actually like fully able to pay attention because we're like in that animal instinct mode when we're in fight or flight. Our senses are heightened for certain things and it's like we don't hear everything that's going on. And so I always tell competitors to do this, like just record what Sandy says and then email me or like text me that voice memo. And
Mhm.
so I should have done that with Bill because I feel like I should have gone back and like listened to it. But
Yeah.
another thing, a second best choice would be to filter the feedback and write down exactly what you remember the judges saying. And then just kind of split it into two lists. So actionable list. And then, so those could be things like bring up tighter glutes, improve your stage presence. For me, it was my tan was too light. I
Mhm.
should have probably put another coat on.
Mhm.
And then like on the other side of the coin, do the emotional ones. So, like this tone, if the tone was like dismissive or kind of harsh, like kind of rate the ones that, you know, and split those into two categories so that you can kind of figure out like, okay, Like what can I actually do with this? Like what are
Mhm.
the things that I need to like actually be able to remove my like I guess lizard brain or my like my defenses and my once that's kind of gone away that I'm like not offended by like what you're telling me, like what can I actually do with this? Like what are my tangible action steps? And I think that will help filter that out.
And I think your coach will help you with that too, especially
Yeah.
like when you said, like, have your athletes record the judge and send it to your coach because they'll
Yes.
help decipher that for you and also be able to maybe interpret what the judge is trying to say. I think I love that you put improved stage presence because that is a huge factor in bikini. And I'm sure fit model as well is that X factor and what they want to see on stage. And you can really tell when someone is comfortable on stage when they flow and when they have really good like they're present and they're like almost interacting with the audience. They don't just have a plastic nervous smile on their face. They're not like moving like robotically. They have this thing on stage that makes you drawn to them. Even when they're in the comparison line, you're drawn to them to look at. And that's really hard to judge, I'm sure, but also really hard to critique someone on. So like just getting an improved stage presence or something like that, that could feel, I think, like an attack on you personally, when really it might just have to do with getting comfortable on stage, practicing more, having an identity on stage or an alter ego that you kind of step into that helps you have more fun on stage or something like that. That would be maybe the actionable step, but it might take a coach's perspective to kind of tell you, yeah, that's not personal. It's just something we need to work on.
And it might be your posing coach that actually goes through it because Savannah and I just actually posted something on Instagram. So shameless plug, follow me on Instagram, AMYEHINGER. But I basically I took all three of my videos and then I took all three of my stage shots in my front pose, my
Mhm,
model pose, my peek over the shoulder, my back pose, my step together. And I put all three from, July to the end of August.
mhm,
And I kind of like we refined each time. Each time I did a show, we kind of like looked at how I did on stage with the video from Gilco, which was nice. And then Savannah and I like did these like minor tweaks, and they were so tiny, but like you could tell by the third show, like my positioning of my body, like from what Paul had like corrected and my front stance, and then like what she helped me with my transitions. It just was like so much more refined and polished. And I know those are like weird little tiny details, but like go over those things with your posing coach, with your prep coach. Not everything's about the body or like sometimes like the way you just present or the color of your suit. I mean, my first show this season, I didn't have Elaine do my makeup and it was like you could tell a huge difference. And then like I kind of like moved my hair off my shoulders by the last show and just like little tiny things that like each time you learn those lessons kind of like refine them but like get get a list like get that together with your coach like brainstorm and always analyze like it's I mean if you look at professional sports like they're analyzing their like if we're talking about baseball like they're analyzing their hitting swing they're analyzing the pitcher that they're facing like these are all things that like can be translated into bodybuilding just like in a really weird like nuances of our sport. I don't know if I'm getting too far into the weeds for that or
oh,
not, but
I think that's perfect. I think that goes right into is it point two? Reframe it as data, not identity. And I think that's really good to think about like football players, coaches, like rewatching game footage, analyzing the data, all that kind of stuff. Because I think since our sport is a physique sport, and since we're women competing in a physique sport, and since we were brought up in a society that tied our size, our weight in our bodies to our identity, it really does take a huge mindset shift to think of it as data and as a sport. We are competing in a sport, and our goals are we're trying to fit a certain mold, that is for that certain category, and it's different for all the categories. It's not like we're just trying to have some perfect body. We're literally trying to fit the criteria for the class that we are competing in. So think of it as data, the feedback as a progress report, not a verdict on your worth.
yeah.
And that will help you going into the off season as well, because you are going to take that report, you're going to take that feedback, you're going to analyze the data, and then you're going to do what it takes to improve and not just get depressed when you put on some weight, because you now have a purpose to that. And so um,
Yeah.
you have another.
So,
Oh.
yeah, I have one more point, and then I know we're kind of running out of time here, so I'll close it out with this last point. My client, Erin,
Mhm.
so last year when she won her class at Masters USA's, just short of the pro card and the overall, her biggest feedback was her glutes and like the color of her suit. So I think like for one thing, this time we nailed it with the red versus the black. But the size of her glutes, like that was the biggest change. And I don't think she realized how much she had grown from November until like the end of August. And so before the show even happened, I put those pictures side by side of her during peak week. And I think she was like, whoa. She's like, I didn't even realize how much work I had done because you're constantly looking at yourself. So I think look at your progress in the long game, see how far you've come so that you're winning the show. You're beating yourself before the show even happens. So regardless of what that she placed top five, like she knew she was winning because she delivered on that feedback. The judges told her to get bigger glutes in that improvement season, we did just that. And so I think it's also important to look at the changes you've made, the progress you've made, and really reflect on that and have that be your prize, that you were able to deliver on that last feedback that you had.
Mhm.
So that's
Really,
my closing thoughts.
the big wins are prep, improvement season, prep, improvement season, taking care of your body, pursuing excellence, pursuing progress. That's the big win. I mean, you could win the Super Bowl, you're still going back in. This is game one for the, Chiefs. They're going to try and win it again. You could win the Olympia, you're going to go right back into improvement season and try to win it again. It's
Mhm.
not necessarily that we're just shooting for that one show and then it's over. It's always going to be progress. So even when you hit that win that you worked so hard for, you're still going to push for the next win and the next win. So to just reframe that in your mind and think maybe the goal isn't always at the very top winning, but always improving, because that's something you can always do.
Yeah, absolutely. So I just, first of all, I want to again thank people for tagging us on their stories on Instagram. You can find us at Prep Life Podcast or at Glam Girl Bikini. We just love hearing from you on the DMs and, reposting or putting it on your story, sharing it with friends. I saw a couple of you like tagging other people like, hey, you got to listen to this. So the more you do that, the more we just pay it forward to that other person. Try to keep this podcast ad free. So any sort of rating or review really helps other people in the same space find us. And we just want to help people. That's the mission of the podcast. We want to help other people. So please pay it forward. If you found value in this episode, please pass it on to a friend. If you would like coaching for Lee Marie or myself, you can go to glamgirlbikini.com and hit the get started button. Thanks for listening, guys.